But Dan Solomon, I get to talk about him when I knew him when. This is an individual that obviously, like you, the common denominator, loves the sport of bodybuilding. So during our times, we were coming up looking at magazines, thumbing through, going, I want to look like that bodybuilder. We got Dan on stage here in South Florida. He decided that education was a little more important. I guess his father had a big part of that. And got him through to good school for journalism. And so we always find that someone is so passionate about things, they always try to steer back to what they're passionate about. So Dan was very lucky to keep health and fitness as part of his business plan. I met him when he spearheaded Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. Back then is when the forums were becoming popular, and then the podcasts, anything to get more exposure other than just through the magic of the ink. So Dan came about in our sport, in our industry, at a very good time. Became diverse in all the people he's connected because people want to be talked about by him on his radio show. It became international, so Pro Bodybuilding Weekly became Pro Bodybuilding Worldwide. From there, he went and capitalized on with digital muscle, was able to expand even more, and with that, I believe gave him the opportunity to be the stepping stone to where he is now. Again, talking about that little show, this gentleman here, his moniker for that event is the Chief Olympia Officer President of the Mr. Olympia. So big hand for my good friend, Dan Solomon.
So, Tim, thank you for that. You just remind me of my age when you do that. But I'll be honest with you guys, this is a nice time of year for us because the fourth quarter, as you can imagine, for all of us really it was stressful. It was a tough time. I'm just kind of recovering from it now, and to be able to just come here in a laid-back setting and talk a little bit about the stuff that we all share and we all love to talk about. It's pretty special for me. In more ways than you can imagine. You know, even when we started talking, Tim mentioned Aaron, which of course we are in Aaron's house right now. And that's actually not true. His house is actually much bigger than this. But we are in Aaron's gym, and that hits home for me because I always say that the world of fitness and bodybuilding is very much like an entrepreneurial sandbox, right? We all connect with it in different ways. We all figure out ways to feed our families through it or create opportunities or whatever it is we're trying to achieve. And when I see local folks who I've watched for many years, and I see them grind it out and do the work and do it the right way, when I see folks like Aaron conceive an idea and have the courage to see it through, and then I see him build a business, and the kind of business that has made many people not named Aaron also very successful. I always say you can measure a guy's impact on the world by going to his company and looking at the parking lot outside and seeing all those exotic cars in the parking lot that his employees have bought on the back of the vision that he had and the hard work. And I apply that to so many people. There's a gentleman sitting in the front row who actually created an entire category. His name's Stacy Kaufman. Stacy's with us. Stacy started Pro-Ten. You guys might not know it. You guys take it for granted. Stacy's great. So I mentioned Stacy because Stacy didn't start a company. Stacy started a fucking category. He started the whole thing. There was no Jantana. There was nothing. He started the whole idea of tanning in the way that you all know it today. And in this industry, there's so many stories like that. There's so many people who have identified with some corner of that sandbox and have rolled up their sleeves and have done the work. And that goes for the athletes too, those stories of athletes like this lady here to my left, Janet Layoub, who just won the 2020 Bikini Olympia title. And I've known Janet and her family for a long time, and I know the kind of work she put in. And I know the sacrifices that she made in her life. And I saw her knock on that doorstep 3 separate times and finished as a runner-up. And eventually, this past December, she broke through and reached the very top of the mountain in what she does. And I know she's inspired a lot of people along the way. You're going to get to hear from her in a few minutes. But there's just so much of that. And when I come to these things, and Tim was kind enough to ask me to come down and speak to you guys, I never know what you guys want to talk about. You want to talk about the business of bodybuilding and sort of my path and my general sense of how you make a run at it and make a few bucks and live out your dream? Or you want to talk about the fact that Big Ramy just became the 16th man to win the Mr. Olympia, and he defeated 3 Mr. Olympia champions to do that. I don't know what you guys want to talk about, really, because I know that for many, many years, all I did was I covered the sport of bodybuilding. Just like Tim said, we look at the magazines and we talk about these warriors, the men, the women, the Miss Olympia, the Mr. Olympia, bikini, figure fitness, physique, all of it, and we just loved it. We love breaking down the physiques. We love understanding the stories of what drove all the athletes, and it was something that really kept us going. And for me, that's something that I love to talk about. Whenever I get asked to do an interview or to do something like this, I love just talking about that stuff. And I'd love to know, is there anybody in this room right now that can tell me the name of the 3 Mr. Olympia champions that Big Ramy defeated to become the 16th winner of the Mr. Olympia? Anybody want to take a crack at it? Are you guys real deal bodybuilding fans? What's up? I can't hear you. What? Well done. So, is there anybody in this room that attended the Olympia in December? Good. And did you enjoy that?
I did the amateur.
Did you? Good. The Amateur Olympia, I'm glad you mentioned that, has become such a big part of Olympia Week because it has, we have over 500 amateurs, and to be able to bring an event like that and merge it into the Olympia experience has been really, really wonderful. There's a lot of events growing this year on the schedule. We're going to be talking about that throughout this seminar. And I know Janet, you just kind of filled me in on an event that you're putting on. It's the Janet Layoub Battle of the Bodies, which is going to take place July 31st in the Boca Raton area. So something to put on your calendar if you really like people. But for me, the process of sort of making my way through this industry started about 20 years ago, believe it or not, when I decided to take on the task of being a manager of a local bodybuilder. His name was Darren Charles. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him. And back in those days, Darren was just kind of an up-and-comer, didn't have any endorsement contracts, and asked me if I'd help him. And I did. So what I did was I went ahead and I said, what are you trying to achieve? He said, I want to be a leader athlete, he said. And I said to him, well, how do you do that? I didn't know anybody. So I went back to my office. I was doing something completely different, and I opened probably the Yellow Pages at the time. I'm sure you probably don't know what the Yellow Pages are, but opened the Yellow Pages, and I found the number for Weider Publications in Woodland Hills, California, and I placed a call to Joe Weider, thinking that, and by the way, I assume you guys know who Joe Weider is, right? Okay, good. A lot of folks don't. We're getting to that point where Joe's been gone for a while, so I just take it for granted. So I called up Joe, left a message with his assistant, a lady named Celia, and about an hour later, Joe called me back. And I spent an hour and a half on the phone with Joe talking about the emergence of the distended midsection in bodybuilding. It was a problem. All the athletes all of a sudden were starting to look like they were 4 months pregnant. For those of you guys who've been around a while, you'll remember that phase. It was not a good time in the world of bodybuilding physiques. And we spent a lot of time talking about that. And by the time that conversation was over, Darren Charles became a Weider athlete, and I was asked to be a writer at Muscle and Fitness. And from that day forward, it set forth a sequence of events that led to things like hosting Mr. Olympias and Arnold Classics for pay-per-view and webcast and that sort of thing. And then somewhere along the way, I got hired to be an editor in a few of the different magazines. I worked for guys named Joe Weider and Steve Blackman and all those publications that I know a lot of you guys aren't as familiar with these days because a lot of those magazines aren't printed. Among my current responsibilities, I run Muscle and Fitness Magazine. That's one of my current jobs. And as you know, we don't print that magazine anymore. It's now all digital and social media. But back in those days, we used to get excited about the mail coming every month and our magazine arriving. So I got to be a part of that world for about 10 or 15 years, and I really, really loved it because I've always said no matter what I do, no matter what job I have, at my core, I am a writer. A writer is the thing that I most identify with. And I'd imagine everybody in this room, no matter how many millions of dollars you guys make, no matter how much success you guys have, no matter how many titles you win, there is that one thing that you most closely identify yourself with. And for me, it's a writer. And I'm very proud of that. And I know the written word has become kind of an endangered species these days. As I watch my son, my 14-year-old son, text his friends, and they don't know what periods or commas are anymore, and it drives me crazy. But for that, it's been a really interesting time because it's given me the chance to get to know all corners of what we do: audience engagement, the athletes, the editors, the media, the company owners, the employees. There are different parts of this industry until one day, about 6 years ago, a buddy of mine named Steve Jones out in Los Angeles had just gotten the news that Joe Weider had died. And my friend Steve has made a lot of very successful films, the kind of movies that have red carpets and big-time directors and that whole thing, and actors named Al Pacino starring and all that sort of thing. So he calls me up, and I said to him, kind of in a passing comment, he says to me, "This guy Joe Weider, I'm just reading about him in the LA Times, I didn't even know about him." And I said, I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a story. It's a story that includes poverty and anti-Semitism and being a visionary and having the courage to take on the world, and just like Stacy, build an entire industry. And that might be the last time Stacy and Joe Weider ever mentioned in the same sentence, so I'm glad I could do that for you. But in all seriousness, through that conversation, we ended up beginning the process of making a movie. And the movie was called Bigger. And the movie was in the movie theaters for a few months. It's now on HBO. And it's the story of how Joe Weider and his brother Ben decided to take their vision of a more muscular world and turn it into a business which one day became a billion-dollar industry. And it all started back in the 1940s. And I would say to every one of you guys, as you go through this process, I've always said the most important thing any of us can do is to know where we came from and to know how things started. I don't care if I'm a baseball fan, and I love the rich history of baseball, and I think that's the reason why I love the game today. And in this world, that's where it all started. And I know a lot of you guys are all wrapped up in your Instagram, and I get that, and that's part of the nature of what we do today. But there's a world that I will tell you, if you understand it and you know it, it'll change the way you view what you do today. It'll change the way you view sets and reps and all the stuff that we all do together. And so the film tells that story in a way that I think will make you guys appreciate what it's like to have the courage to have an idea and to see it through, even when everybody laughs in your face and tells you that you are crazy and tells you that it's impossible and tells you that the concept of a gym chain is a ridiculous idea, or the concept of a magazine devoted to people flexing their bodies is absurd, or something worse than that, to be honest. And that was a world that we didn't live in that world, but that's how this all started. And for Joe to have not taken no for an answer, and to be able to create something that one day Jim Mannion identified as something he wanted to bring here to the U.S. and create opportunities for all of us to continue to grow on Joe's vision. It's really, really important. I will tell you this, it will make this process far more enjoyable to all of you guys. I don't care if you're a contest promoter, an athlete, a business owner, whatever part of this place, this sandbox that you want to occupy, knowing that story, knowing where it came from, and knowing how it all started will go a long way to making you appreciate and making you understand why we do what we do. And I just hope that you guys stop and take a moment to do that. I know there was a lot of questions about this year's Olympia and what's happening with the Olympia. So I will fill you in. So last year we spent, well, for the last 20 years almost, the Winter Olympia competition, Olympia weekend, has been held in Las Vegas, as you guys know. And it has turned into a major showcase event that brings about 40,000 people to Las Vegas every year. and we sell out arenas, and we are very proud to have a couple hundred exhibitors set up shop in the Las Vegas Convention Center, and it's turned out to be a really great showcase event for our entire industry. Well, this past year, when COVID hit, we decided that it was an opportunity to turn lemons into lemonade and take the event from the Orleans Hotel, where it had been for many years. We moved it right onto the Las Vegas Strip at Planet Hollywood. And my team spent about 8 months. My team, which also includes Tim and a bunch of really hard-working folks like Tamer El-Gindi and some really talented event producers and promoters, they worked their butts off to try to execute a full-blown Olympia weekend in a COVID year at the Planet Hollywood, right in the heart of the Las Vegas Strip, and we had a crazy event planned for the industry. Then, as the news came in, as we approached December, we had already postponed it from September to December, word came in that the city of Las Vegas, the state of Nevada, and all the various people that we count on for access were beginning to get us really nervous and suggest that we were not going to be able to have our event there with more than 250 people, which is roughly the number of people that are here right now. And we had already sold about 3,000 tickets. It's a little bit of a problem. So we're about 4 weeks out, and we had two choices that we could make, or two announcements that we could make. Announcement number one was we could have announced to the world and to the 3,000 people that had already bought tickets to stay home because the event is either not happening or you will not be allowed to enter the building. It is the biggest, anybody in this round here, if you put on an event with 300 people or an event like I put on with 10,000 people and more, it doesn't matter how many people there are. If you are in a place where you get that phone call and you find out that those tickets have been sold and those folks can't come in, especially when it was the greatest lineup in the history of this competition. We had 3 reigning Olympia champions competing on the same stage. It's only the 3rd time in the history of the event that's happened. We had the best bikini Olympia lineup ever. We had the return of the Miss Olympia. It was an Olympia week unlike any other, along with a very formidable amateur Olympic. And we were very grateful that we were able to have the privilege of presenting this to the world, and we had pulled out every stop we could pull out to create the craziest stage production anybody has ever seen. And we had celebrities lined up to come out, and we were ready to put on a show right in the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. And it was something that we were really, really excited about. And then it became obvious that that was not going to be allowed to happen. So I called up Jake Wood. Jake Wood's the gentleman who back in February acquired Muscle and Fitness, Flex, Muscle and Fitnessers, and the Olympia. 4.5 weeks out from the event, I called up Jake and I said, Jake, we got a problem. And we have over 200 IFBB pros qualified to compete in the Olympia. We have one of the best lineups we've ever had. We have a lot of tickets sold. We have a lot of excitement. And I don't think anybody's going to be allowed to come and watch. And we have 4.5 weeks to go. And I have an idea. I said, there is a venue here in Orlando called the Orange County Convention Center, and I only knew about this situation because our colleague Gary Udit up in Pittsburgh had just reached out to that same venue to put on the NPC Nationals. So Gary deserves a lot of credit, I always tell him that. So I called up the Orange County Convention Center. Through some miracle, they were able to give us the same weekend, the same space, and then I called up Jake and I said, Jake, the owner, I said, Jake, what do you say if we try to do this? And he says to me, he goes, well, we only have 4.5 weeks to the event. An event that we normally spend 8 months producing. We have 4.5 weeks to go. And I said to him, yeah, but we have 4.5 weeks. And my team rose up and we freaking pulled it off. And I will tell you, as I sat there and I looked at that stage in Orlando, and I saw a lot of you guys there, and it was probably one of the most emotional experiences of my professional life because the event truly was not supposed to happen. Those extraordinary athletes were supposed to compete on a stage with nobody in front of them. The echo of their breathing would have been heard throughout an entire empty building, but we were able to put it together. And I don't care if I produce 35 other Olympians. I don't care if we part the freaking Red Sea again one day. I will tell you this right now. that will forever be a proud moment for me because it really showed me the power of teamwork. And I have an extraordinary team. I know a lot of you guys own companies and you can relate. And I got a lot of praise and a lot of credit for it, but make no mistake about it, none of it happens without Jim Mannion and our team and everybody else who rolled up their sleeves to make that happen. And for those of you guys who came out to support it, I appreciate it, and it means the world to all. So, for any of you guys, and I'll leave you with this, for any of you guys who didn't attend the Olympia, is there anybody out there that didn't attend the Olympia and really wanted to? Why didn't you go?
The truth, my wife. It wasn't in our budget.
Okay, so you didn't go to the Olympia because it wasn't in your budget and because of your wife. So here's what's going to happen this year. Okay? Before you leave, you're going to see me and I'm going to give you my business card. 2 weeks before this week's Olympia, you're going to send me an email and you're going to tell me you and your wife are going. Because I'm still not convinced that your wife is going to give you permission. But if she does and she wants to go with you, you're going to send me an email and you're going to remind me that this happened right now. And when you do, I'm going to leave 2 comp tickets for you at this year's Olympia. And they're going to be good seats. And they're going to be good seats. And you're going to be there to see, and for whatever it's worth, the VIP packages at the Olympia are $800 a piece, just so we're clear. So I only say that because a lot of you guys spend that money and you support the event, and it means so much to us. And we want everybody to be at the event because this is our Florida community. These are our people. This is, no matter where I go, no matter what we do, the Florida NPC world this is our family. I grew up with all these guys. These are all the people that we grew up and we're trying to figure all this stuff out with. And I know Peter Potter isn't here, but Peter, these guys are all folks, and Tim Gardner and Top and everybody out here, man. And we're all just part of this Florida NPC community. And as proud as I am to be a part of Jim Mannion's NPC, make no mistake about it, I eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. I really do. And I'm so proud of what Jim has built and the fact that he's allowed us to be here to do this. But I'm even more proud, and I don't mind saying that out loud, to be an NPC Florida guy. Because when the entire country was trying to figure stuff out in 2020, it was Tim and our promoters here in the state of Florida, and Joe and everybody who's been a part of that, who rose up and said, come on, we got you. And Tampa and Orlando and other cities made it possible for athletes to compete, made it possible for athletes to qualify for the Olympia. And without what you guys did, without what the state of Florida did here in the NPC, it might not have happened. So I will tell you this, folks, be proud to be part of the NPC, be part of me on your road, hopefully, to the IFBB Professional League, but even more than that, be proud to be a part of the NPC Florida, and I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you. Back to Tim. Does anybody have any questions for me before I head off?
You gonna be in Orlando again?
Yeah, so a lot of people want to know where the Olympia is going to be this year, right? And I was hoping that I was going to get out of here without getting that question. But you asked, and I will only tell you this. We are in real time right now finalizing the situation. And I'll just very carefully say to you, I think this is going to play out well for us. I'll just say that. Anything else?
Wow.
Thank you guys.